So when's your anticipated launch date now? Is like some January-ish?
And turn them on.
I,
Don't turn
I,
them on yet.
I
I
turned
mine on, but I'll turn it off.
I'll turn it off. Yeah. Okay.
Are you going to go live?
In a little bit.
So I'm just going to introduce you, David, and then I'll let you introduce the...
Where are you beginning, Valerian, your Twitter?
Yeah, it's Valerian 253.
And then tell me quickly your Twitter handle. That's
FinTech SV. Yeah.
There we go. All right, are we live?
We are live and we are holding signal.
All right, I think that one just went out. We're going to find out. Go ahead, introduce.
He hasn't asked me about it. I'll ask you.
So, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. Obviously, everyone's more focused on what's about to happen next week, but some of us are still...
My name is David Spark. I own a media company called Spark Media Solutions. I'm a veteran journalist, mostly a tech journalist, actually. I've been covering the tech field for well over 20 years. I've been in more than 40 media outlets, print, radio, TV, online, the whole nine yards. I'm just going to quickly introduce everyone on the panel, but I also want to say that this is a completely questions. This is especially a small, intimate group, so if you have any comments, questions, bring it up. But since we are streaming, please be on mic. And where is that other microphone?
There is no other mic.
Your other mic so you're going to use this microphone, the one that's in my hand, and then I'll just talk into Ryan's shirt.
You'll have to be ready to...
I'll run around, and then cameraman maybe will follow. So yeah, just do me a favor, raise a hand. Don't start talking because no one will hear you. Introduce everyone on the panel.
Thing, right? It's not just I'm watching this ad. It's I'm going to choose to give my time.
Yeah, let me just add one point. I mean, I think it is interesting to consider other types of currencies, like besides just money, because something interesting that I see on the internet that was, you can kind of see this before the internet, but you really see it on the internet specifically, is like likes, like that star things, right? But really, it's like a digital little note. And I can think of some analogies before the internet, things like your GPA in school, or things like maybe, I don't know, something like I don't know, like winning an award or something like that, right? But on the internet, we just see so many more of these because it's sort of easy technically to do something like that. So I just think it's an interesting point. I think it is absolutely true. There are other forms of currency.
So I will say though, some of these quote forms of currency are like a steering wheel on a Fisher Price toy in that likes, I don't know if you guys know this, but likes on YouTube mean absolutely nothing. Do you know this? Truly, because YouTube knows that this can be completely gamed. So even if something has 1 million likes, it does not increase its SEO visibility one iota on most on time viewed. So a few seconds, that doesn't do anything. It's length of time, and especially that very first week, because they very much prefer. Have any questions? Mark, you're
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
I'd like to wait until I get the microphone. Thanks, David. I'd love to know your thoughts on how trust plays into this. I would, so for context, I volunteer some time with the PA, and they're involved in malvertising concern system is trustworthy. It's trust within the advertising ecosystem.
I'll address. Your question is trust or advertising, or both, or
Trust in advertising.
trust in advertising. Okay.
Is there
Let me-
such a thing?
Let me. I'll just try and. I'll try and answer the question. You tell me if I'm getting the world of possibilities here. I want to say one interesting thing about ads. Like, there are. I think ads have been like this one way to monetize content on the internet and in traditional media. It's like the most popular way. It's like everybody uses ads. But it's really cool that like we're at the beginning of an era where just really being able to easily pay for something is becoming possible.
So unchaining ads, and that could potentially build trust.
Unchaining ads. Yeah.
Unchaining content from ads.
Yes, unchaining content from ads. Yes, and I don't think they should go internet, which is very odd if you think about it. Which is that there are people, like we're mentioning how like time is the most important thing for people, right? Like when you view an ad, you're giving your very, very precious time to view this ad. And if you don't like that ad or if it's not relevant for you, you're gaining absolutely nothing from this. It's very bizarre that the advertiser or any other allow people to just pay for content directly. And it fixed that really weird situation where you've got these other third parties that for some reason they're earning all the money, even though like the other people are creating all the value. So.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of companies. I'm not sure how far along they are, but one of the things with advertisements, obviously, is from an ad tech side of things, is the transparency, right? No one really knows what people are seeing other than the numbers they get reported to, right? It's like the definition of what something is in terms of an impression on Facebook, on YouTube, or whatever it is. There's really no transparency into the system at all, right? So the ability of to create some sort of public ledger where ultimately the advertisers are the ones losing money, right? It's like, I give you this pile of money, I trust that people are actually seeing it, and really the only thing I have to go by is you saying that somebody saw this, as opposed to an independently verifiable, transparent system to show that, yes, this thing was seen at this time, which is one of the fundamental things of blockchain technology, right? It's an irrefutable source of a timestamp. This happened at this time. You can verify it, this person can verify it, and if you're paying the piles and piles of money that you're doing as an advertiser, you would think that they would be the first ones to say, oh, wait a minute, this thing can be transparent now? Yes, I would like to see that.
The lack of advertising transparency is a big deal. And this is something, there's a podcast that I go on a lot called Beamcast, and we talk about this a lot. And the Advertising Bureau believes that if on a page, that's delivery, which if I was an advertiser, I would not be happy with that at all. And so they can rack up money. And then there's stats of like people paying huge amounts of money for ads that were never delivered. Also, cases where companies were trying to bury their competitors by purposely clicking on their competitors' ads, so they spent all their money. Is there a possibility that this FinTech solution can offer up some level of transparency to deal with this problem? What do you think? Or is that's inherent in the problem, and I don't think the currency can deal with this?
No, I think that definitely is one of the solutions. I mean, it's the idea of having a public ledger. The hard part, really, to a certain degree, the hard part is always going to be the technology, right? It's getting this thing to actually work. But the even harder part is getting buy-in, because obviously in a system like that, there are a lot of people who are making a lot of money who are purposefully happy keeping things as opaque as possible. And this, I think it goes pretty much throughout the entertainment industry, right? Which is, you have this whole sense of Hollywood accounting, right? It's like you have these movies that make millions and millions of dollars, and somehow there's never reported a profit, right?
Oh yeah, tons of cases.
Same
of that.
things for decades and the record industry, right? Which is whose publishing rights never got paid out. So it's an industry-wide problem that this very general solution, when applied very purposefully and directly, could have a big effect.
All right, my next question is for, hold on, I got one more question I want to jump to. Specifically, and this is for you, Laura and Valerian, describe, and you can mention specific people on your channels, how does one, what is it that someone needs to do on your channels to succeed, to, pick the 2 or 3 people who are doing the best on your channels. What is it they're doing that attracts the most attention and gets the most revenue? What is it? What are they doing? Media-wise?
Sure. So right now, the main successes that we've had so far, and it's still relatively early, we're trying to find people that have a built-in audience, right? So we've had a couple of YouTubers who already have a successful YouTube channel, and for whatever reason, let's say they don't get enough advertising revenue on their channel, whether it's because of their scale or if they...
Do they stay on YouTube and your channel? Do both?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, absolutely. Actually, the one example that we have so far is a guy named Nerd Rage, and he does chemistry experiments, and he's got over 500,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. But when you think about it, these people are watching like laboratory grade chemistry experiments for fun. That audience is only going to ever get so big, right? And advertising.
But he's the only one who's doing it, probably.
Yeah, it's a very small group. So the people who are into it are like
got that whole audience
on lock, right?
Yeah.
So super into it. The people who are watching his videos. So he made a video that he put on YouTube and said, "Hey, I'm going to have this video on PopChest for a few days before it goes on to YouTube. Come over, help me
so that's
support
the
this
thing.
channel.
So he
5
releases
cents,
it
you're
early
in."
on your channel before it goes to YouTube.
Yes, and the other part of that, which I hope will help people like Laura, which is like, okay, now we've got a pile of people who are coming onto our site, who are actively demonstrating, hey, I'm ready to give money to stuff. And then that filters into some of the smaller channels and individuals and helps them build their audience
Have
as
you,
well.
by the way, I mean, that thing, so have you been marketing yourself to YouTube celebrities and trying to bring them over exactly
That is the
this way?
game right now. It's exactly what we're doing right now. So come on over. Come on over.
I can't say that my channel's generating that kind of traffic right now. Very new. By the way, you can all go to youtube.com/SparkMediaSolutions, and if I generate enough, I'll be heading over to PopChest.
Excellent.
So you need to help me to help Valerian. Laura, what's the stories on your channel?
I'm kind of joking when I say this, but start making cat videos. Because there's a huge cat video market out there. It's ridiculous. I was so excited, because one of my most successful videos is a cat video for various reasons. I like cats. Sometimes I like making videos about cats. And anyway, but I was extremely excited when I saw another cat video on PopChest that was not mine. And I was like, oh my God, somebody paid 10 cents for this cat jumping up in the air in slow motion. Yes, there's totally this untapped cat video market that amateur creators can totally take advantage of.
So your
It's kind of a
most
joke.
successful videos are cat videos?
Yeah.
Hands down.
But on a
And
more
are there animal videos too?
Hamsters?
I have one about a science experiment a friend of mine did with a hamster, determining how far the hamster was running every night.
Okay.
But on a more serious note, high production value, like the highest production value you can bring in, working with a minimal budget, I think that's what attracts a strong audience in the long run.
All right. That's all very good tips. Now, you had a question. I'm sorry, and I'm handing you the mic.
Thank you. I have a question, and bear with me because I'm probably going to think about my question while I'm asking it. Yeah, that's true. A lot to think about. So I agree with Valerian that one of the main characteristics and values is taking the intermediary away. Ryan saying, using Bitcoin to simplify it, to avoid using that intermediary, and again, losing that value. I kind of want to broaden this scope. A lot of banks right now are jumping on a blockchain wagon, credit card, Visa right now. They're trying to find ways to find a platform to sell their services using blockchain, which is somewhat ironic to me because they are already intermediary, and that's kind of the purpose of the technology in some cases. So I'm wondering if at some point, do you think there'll be some convergence with the incumbents, the intermediaries, if you will, because they've adapted so much and using blockchain and Bitcoin so much that they used to kind of, for example, not to completely put away what you're doing, but instead of doing it on your own, you can use those intermediaries again because they've kind of defeated their own purpose.
Yeah, I just to make one comment about that. So I find it very fascinating that many of these intermediaries are actually very excited about blockchain. Like, because I feel like, isn't this disintermediating you? But they are actually interested in it, and they are. It's true for banks. It's true for lots of different financial institutions, not just banks. And it's
Disclaimer. I'm a lawyer, and I'm just as excited, so I'm
okay.
like taking away my own job.
Okay. Totally. I think, I think, I do think that this isn't going to like remove like the existence of jobs or something like that, right? Like, I mean, like this is going to be really useful technology, and there is absolutely going to be people that are facilitating the use of this technology. I don't think that is going to like, change, but it'll change in the same way that other industries have changed, is how I see it. Mm-hmm. If you have a company, this is just kind of a silly example in history of like technology and stuff, but if you have a company that produces buggies for like horse and buggies, and the car manufacturer comes along, you can pivot your business and start making cars, or if you just keep making horse and buggies, it'll just gradually decline in business, or just new opportunities. So I think that's why there are so many intermediaries that are latching on to this technology. They're the smart ones. I mean, what they're going to do is they're just going to use this. They're going to pivot. Their business is going to be better. They're going to provide better products and services. They're going to be better, and everybody's going to win. So that's how I see it playing out.
Well, one of the things, just particularly about an application that I've seen, particularly with PopChest, everyone into the digital world, like life is great. The hard parts are getting them out from the fiat world into the digital currency world, and then out again, right? Because those are the choke points, effectively. And I think.
Hold on. So, wait, but before we go, how did you get the consumers on your site that are there spending money? How did those people come?
Right. So one of the main things that we do is either, if you already have, let's say, Bitcoin to begin with, that's the easiest route. The second route
is there a registry of Bitcoin users that you can just
smaller
start spamming?
Smaller group of people, right? So
I'm sorry, yes, that does exist. Like you can. Is there like an email registry of
No,
Bitcoin
but you're
users
in,
you can spam, or
you're part of the community, right?
and you
Yeah.
just-
So if you're on Reddit or on
got it.
Facebook groups, and you can sort of attract things. But the bigger challenge though is getting people who just have their debit and credit card, and that's how they're used to doing things. So you go through a process of having them enter their information, then you either offload that transaction onto someone like Coinbase, which is one of the biggest processors of digital currency and taking cash payments, or one of the things that we're seeing, I think there's a test going on in Europe with Visa and a company called Satoshi Pay, which is they're basically doing that same thing. They're saying, okay, we're Visa, we want you to use our network. Okay, we'll be the intermediary that does that exchange for you. Since we have all of this information on the Visa network, we know that reasonably you're going to give us this money and it's not going to be charged back. So we'll actually provide the service that the digital currency world can provide. So in a sense, I think some of the smarter legacy companies are going, okay, let's see what all of this blockchain stuff does. What does it do well? And let's just replicate that using our system. So that's another option. I guess it's going to be years before it ultimately plays out, but I don't think they're going to go without a fight.
For example, I guess what I'm trying to say is, Ryan, I think your company would be a great example. Would you eventually go back to using a bank because they provide maybe extra services as opposed to avoiding them because they've become so efficient?
Yeah, great question. So I think whether we do or not sort of depends on things that I don't yet know. We're certainly open to going back and using a bank if that's the best choice for us. But
So what you are not working with banks at all?
we're not working at banks with all right now, and that's not in the plan either. I'm just saying that is a possibility. There's another possibility though. So let me sketch out a different sort of possibility and how banks could actually still be involved, the smart ones anyway. So we're building our own technology. I mean, we have to build we're building a smart contract network on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. This is really difficult. It's really hard. That's why it took 6 months, me and my co-founder, just sitting at our computers programming all the time. It's really hard. It would be cool if people start solving some of the little problems that we have that aren't our primary focus. So if a bank, for instance, started solving some of the security problems that we face, and they can provide a service to us that facilitates our security, that could be really, really useful.
So what are, let's outline these. What are your security problems specifically?
Well, sure, I'll give you, we have one big security problem, which is in order for our technology to function, we have to have a server somewhere that's got some Bitcoin on it. And that means we're a target for people to hack us. So there are all sorts of ways we can address this problem. Many of them involve using third parties. We would like other people to hold one of the keys in a multi-sig wallet, multi-sig Bitcoin wallet. That could be a bank. Banks are great at custodial services. They'll hold that key, and either they're actively signing and facilitating us with certain conditions, or they just are offline and they're just holding it. But that's just an example of like one way a bank could take their sort of existing expertise, so to speak, of being a custodian and pivot into doing something completely new that will be useful to businesses like myself, even though we're never going to use fiat currency.
We're just so you know, we're definitely wrapping up in 10 minutes. So does anyone else have any questions they want to bring up? Anyone on this side of the room? We have not got anyone else. Okay, no, I have more questions. I just want you guys to speak up. One of the issues we had talked about this when we had a pre-interview before this, and Ryan, I think you brought this up, is about getting paid from different countries, and the Bitcoin pretty much levels all that.
Yeah.
Explain to me, how difficult is it right now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's one of these things that's a little bit tricky because PayPal is available in quite a few countries, but there are all these hidden limitations. Okay, so like, why don't you just use PayPal? Can't you just send money with PayPal anywhere? But there are these.
I'll tell you one small problem. I have a developer that's in the Philippines, and he every now and then accidentally does not charge me in U.S. dollars.
Okay.
And he does Philippine currency,
Pesos.
which is far less.
Okay.
And I remind him, yeah, I think you want to pick U.S. dollars here. So that is a common thing that happens.
So even they have usability problems. But so there are many hidden limitations that are hard to explain, but involving things like limits and what are the rules and what can you actually really do with this in practice. Because as soon as you start crossing that line, all of a sudden they freeze your account. You can't do it anymore. So it solves this sort of permissionless problem of being able to send money internationally. This is such a huge deal. Again, I'll give another anecdote from when I worked at BitPay. This was the first Bitcoin company that I worked for. We paid people in Bitcoin because we had people working in different countries. And you got to be crazy to try and send fiat currency cross borders. Bitcoin is instant payments with zero fees. Like, why would you do it any other way?
Let me ask you, how much money did you save doing that? Do you know?
How much money do we save? That's a good question. It's not just money. So we had people in Argentina, and Argentina has strong capital controls. So it's really not easy to even send like dollars or pesos or something to them. They would have to set up a bank account in another country or something. I mean, like, using Bitcoin just completely solved the problem. So I don't even know how much money. It was like, why would we even bother
It's
doing it?
more
any
than
other
money.
way?
It's paperwork.
Paperwork
money.
and hassle. It was so much easier to use Bitcoin. There was no question we wouldn't even consider using fiat currency for that.
Will you jump in, Laura?
Yeah, I've got something to add here as far as, especially as it concerns international viewership, because I discovered this actually with one of my more successful videos, because YouTube, for instance, I'm on YouTube building an audience right now. And what YouTube does is it determines the ad rates based on the sort of origin country of whoever is watching. And it just so happened that most of my viewers for one of my most successful videos weren't in the United States. They were in non-English speaking countries, which reduced by a decent amount, the amount of ad revenue I would have gotten had they been mostly based in the
By the way,
United States.
I have a book out, and it gets sold in different countries. And talk about just confusion. It's like one of those things I've just kind of given it up. I'm like, all right, if it's sold in Poland, I only make this much. If it's sold here, I only make this. Whatever. I got no control over this nonsense anymore. It is what it is. And Amazon keeps sending me information about, oh, they've changed this policy from this. Like, nobody's going to pay attention to that. I don't pay attention to that. So this seems like an enormous advantage is the international payment issue. That's a really big deal. Before I ask anything else, because we are coming close, are there any issues on this whole topic of fintech and media that we have not approached that you guys want to talk about?
Oh, I have
Yes.
something I wanted to bring up, which is sort of the aspect of how the blockchains can someday hopefully help solve the problem of content authorship, which is a really big issue. I wanted to bring this up when we were talking about the attention economy, because that's mostly...
But you spaced out and you forgot about it.
Well, I was just waiting for the right time to bring it up.
I was making a joke
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the attention.
But for most people, many sort of artists and creative types like that, the place for the attention economy is Facebook. But the big issue with Facebook being a creator is that, for the most part, there's not any ad revenue sharing on their platform. And there's this huge issue with videos being downloaded from YouTube and then re-uploaded to Facebook using their native player, and
Yes.
then like all these
There's a term for it. What is it?
freebooting.
Freebooting.
And
okay.
I've experienced this myself to a pretty large number that I basically didn't get. And I think that you could put a watermark on stuff, which I think is sort of inelegant, from a production value standpoint. There's ways you can deal with it right now, but I think blockchains in general are going to be able to solve, hopefully, that problem for good in the near future.
Yeah. Just to follow up, I don't have the full answer, but I completely agree with you. And copyright problem, because this is a really serious problem on every platform. Like what you mentioned with freeloading, this really does happen. This really does affect a lot of people, and a lot of genuine creators are losing out on the revenue because of people basically stealing their content. So it's a real big problem, and I am hopeful.
There is no way to find out where the origin, the first upload came from when somebody does that?
Well, you can. I mean, here the choice you have as a creator is to spend more of your own personal time constantly trawling Facebook for more uploads of your video, and then emailing Facebook and getting them to get rid of it, which is a time sink for you.
Which, by the way, I've also discovered people sometimes just flat out ignore you. Because I did this. I had an ebook out that was only could be distributed through my site, and other people were posting on their site. And I go, take it down. How about I just don't respond to you? That's what, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
And so it never got taken down. I wasn't willing to pay a lawyer to have them go after them. They flat out ignored me.
Basically, it involves a substantial time cost on the part of the creator to do that themselves, or that's part of the value add behind multi-channel networks and viral video agencies. Like when you have a video that gets really popular on YouTube, is they have people doing it's very suchwow.tv.
Suchwow.tv. And Valerian Bennett at PopChest, and the address for that would be?
PopChest.com.
All right, I want to thank all of you. I learned a ton. I would go through everything I learned so far, but we are out of time. So thank you very much, and I want to thank you as well.
Thank you, David. You're a very entertaining moderator and
thanks.
also informative. Thank you so much, and thanks to the panel. I learned heaps tonight, and I really appreciate your contribution. Thank you all.
Awesome job.
That was great.
Lively.
I truly learned a ton.
Yeah, that was cool.
Bitcoin is complicated. Try to figure out Steam.
Oh my goodness.
I chose.